Yo, what's good? Alright, so this is going to be completely unscripted, and I have very few notes. So bear with me a sec while I get some of the disclaimers out of the way. Alright, I didn't write these down. But because this is live and unscripted, I'm just going to be trying to be comfortable, and I might cuss. So if you are triggered, or you don't like profanity, or you're not allowed to hear it, I'd set this to 18 only, just because of that. That's the only reason. But I can't anymore, or at the moment. YouTube does not have that option at the moment. So, just a disclaimer, if you're easily triggered, or you happen to be like a minor and you're not allowed to hear profanity, please go the other way. Don't listen to this. And the other disclaimer is that I might not even leave this up. This is kind of for my subscribers. I have lately seen some things where YouTube is automatically hiding my videos the second they go up. So no one might even see this anyway. But let's go ahead and get to it. Some of the things that I do want to talk about. And if you want to join me, I can see the chat. I might try game stream another time, but for right now, we're going to go ahead and, yeah, let's get into it. So, just in case if you don't know, occultism, or the word occult, is based off of the Latin word oculus, which means to see, and the occult is obscured from being able to see it, or hidden from view. So the occult sciences are the study of the unseen forces, okay, the occulted forces. And I wanted to talk about that because I hear a lot of, this has been pretty much since I was young, but now there's more people than ever going on about how magic and science are two different things. And it's like, wow, it's 2020 and people still haven't realized that occultism, that magic is science, or science is just a modern word for magic. So that's some of what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about black magic, okay? So black magic is essentially banned or prohibited science, aka it's been censored. Alright, and there's a lot of misconceptions about black magic and white magic, or left-hand path and right-hand path. I actually figured might as well go ahead and clarify some of these things, which a lot of people will probably be pretty mad about this because they love their little definition that they got in 2009 or whenever, and it means so much to them. But okay, so generally when people are thinking of the left-hand path, they're thinking of evil, and the right-hand path is good, or they think of left-hand path as dark or black magic, and right-hand path would be white magic. And that's not altogether wrong, okay? We'll just get that out of the way. A lot of people will use that definition, but I really scoff at it. I'm just trying not to scoff about it right now, okay? Because I'm trying to clear it up. And I'm going to tell you why it's mostly a bunch of bullcrap, the whole LHP, RHP. Because the middle hand path, almost nobody ever talks about the middle way or the middle path. And there's a reason for that. Okay? Now, most people who are involved in magic, here, let me go ahead and give you the more correct definition really quick about left-hand path and right-hand path, rather than the whole good versus evil crap, okay? So, left hand is generally associated to the self in this context. It's magic, or doing a ritual, or performing something with the end goal of helping yourself. That would be left, okay? Whereas the right would be community service, helping your community, helping others, this sort of thing. So that's more the other, the group, the world, whereas the left is self. And then people will kind of be like, well, there really is no middle if there's self and other. But it could be a fusion of the two, a balance. And if that's what you're going for, then that's great. But I'm going to talk about why most of the time LHP and RHP is a bunch of crap. Okay, so the middle hand path, most who are into magic and are calling themselves middle handers or right hand path, what they're doing is using RHP principles for left-handed path purposes, RHP for LHP purposes. And there are very few, very, very, very few, I can't even name anybody, but just saying, very few will employ the left-hand path for right-hand path purposes, meaning there are techniques to help yourself, and instead of using it just for yourself, you can use it to help others. And that's very rare. Most of the time it's pretending like they're helping others while they're serving themselves, which is exactly what I'm talking about, of why it's a bunch of crap. Okay, LHP versus RHP is mostly a bunch of crap, because most of the RHP are a bunch of LHPers, and they're just posing. That's why your churches are so corrupt, because you got a bunch of fakers pretending to be all about the community, when really they're all only about themselves, or primarily about themselves. Okay, maybe not only, maybe. And I think this is like the most important thing, that if I could get across to people for them to understand about, in the magic community, so many people are, I want to study LHP, I want to study the left-hand path, but I'm afraid because it's all black magic, okay? But they don't realize that black magic doesn't even mean, it didn't mean hundreds of years ago that it was evil, okay? That's what the church, the censorship, established it to be. Okay, so there's nothing evil about it. Hey, Banjojo, how's it going? Sorry, I was kind of looking at my notes there. Yeah, I've been wanting to talk about this for a very long time, and I'm just so busy and got so much going on, and to be frank, looking for ways to maybe make money or something, because I need some way to be able to keep making these videos, if you know what I mean. But they're fun. Hey, glad things are going well for you. So, and yeah, feel free, I don't know if you heard me, but feel free to ask questions. Now would be a great time for me to talk about it, especially if it involves black magic, occultism, Majick Science, that kind of thing, or even LHP and RHP, or something similar. But those are what I'm going to try to focus on today. I may even get a little bit into the Kybalion and the 7 Hermetic principles. That was kind of what I was hoping to do. But before I got into that, I wanted to, how do I feel about sigils? Sigil Majick is actually great with Hermetics, which I haven't really gotten to that yet. But Hermetics allow you to create your own ritual, or create your own spell, if you want to call it that. Your own magic, your formula. And basically, I mean, you know how sigils work. I mean, you're asking about it, I'm just assuming. I maybe shouldn't assume, but Sigil Majick is a great way to create your own magic, your own symbols. You can communicate with beings. Trying to think how to put it. Not just beings outside of what we call reality, but even other humans that speak other languages. Like, we can communicate in a language that's subliminal, that's primal, it's different than our conscious alpha beta state waves, our alpha beta waves. So you could still be thinking of a sigil as an alphabet, but you can also bypass, yes, exactly, you just said it, bypass the consciousness. And it works even better for yourself when you're doing it for yourself, because you know what it is, and then a lot of sigil magic has you forget what you did, and that's another way to bypass your consciousness, because you set the conscious intent, and then you're not focusing on it, stressing about it, adding a bunch of negative energy on top of it. So, a lot of rituals or magic, it's advised to set the intent and then let it go. And sigils are a great way to do that, because you can definitely put a lot of heart, soul, focus, attention, and dedicate part of your consciousness to it, and make it alive, and then let it go. Let it have its own life. So, yeah, I definitely agree. So, and all day while I've been thinking about this, and I've actually been thinking about it for a few days now, like, almost non-stop, but I've been trying not to get mad about the whole, censorship thing, because it's, starting to get crazy. It's one thing to slap a censor bar on something, because it's inappropriate. You don't put porn, for example, I know I probably shouldn't even say that word, you shouldn't put that on a children's network, for example. It's just common sense, it doesn't belong there. So, of course, that shouldn't be there. But as far as, censoring it, I don't know, that's just so weird. So weird. But, yet, you look around and it's not necessarily that disgusting, but you do have disgusting stuff right there in even kids shows, and it's people are trying to censor things that are for adults, and that's really where I start having the big problem, where it's information, books, things that are specifically labeled and marketed for adults only, and yet people feel that it's their prerogative, that they're holier than thou, and that it's their decision, that they can censor it. And I think that's absolute crap in so many ways. They obviously don't know about history, because, science. At one time, if you went out and went to, I believe it was a willow tree, and you created aspirin, or a derivative of aspirin. I'll read that in just a second. You create a derivative of aspirin from a tree, and then you gave it to your wife or friend or mother or whoever to help ease their labor pains. You could be put to death as a witch. And people don't understand this. For making aspirin from a plant, you could be considered a witch and put to death. And this was less than 100 years ago. Okay, people want to act like this was hundreds and hundreds of years ago. No, there are people put to death less than 100 years ago for being a witch. Just saying. Just saying. And people want to act like science is this amazing thing. Ooh, look at it. All these things that we have. We're about to see holograms that we could touch. That's not public yet, but hopefully soon. There's going to be all kinds of interesting things. And I know I read a quote somewhere. I was going to go look it up, confirm it, see if it was a writer or someone who actually studied science, but it's been said, and I know people have heard it, that truly advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And people don't realize They don't even think. Like, let's say you time traveled. Okay, not saying that you could take a vehicle, because, you know, that's illegal. They're not going to give you time travel on vehicles. But theoretically, if you went back in time, 100 years, 200, 300, wherever, just pick something a little bit ways back. And then try to tell people about how you access the internet. How you could pick up a little brick, pull it out of your pocket, and a screen that you hooked and you got electricity into it. And then you could type almost any word in, and you could find a Wikipedia article about it. Or a dictionary definition. I mean, there's a lot more information out there, folks. That's kind of why I'm joking about it a little bit. But straight up, that's, you know, imagine it. Trying to explain the internet or Wi-Fi to somebody 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 2,000 years ago. It's magic to them. It's not magic to you, it's just science, it's technology. And that's generally almost 99.999% of the time what magic really is. It is science. It's a study of the unseen forces. Now, the reason why it's not so common, why it's not commonly known or commonly researched, is because of the censorship. Because people want to push an agenda. I already kind of mentioned the church a little bit. I didn't really get too deep into that, but let me go ahead and read what Banjojo was saying here. Yeah, not only are we being censored, we're being recorded for future censorship. On what we are allowed to say about the government changes. Yep, probably. I mean, I'm not gonna disagree with that at all. I can't say for a fact that it's going to happen that way, but I hope it don't. I can say that. And yeah, you probably know you said it's the salicylic acid from the willow. I can't remember the exact name. That's probably right. I just know, you know, because I've studied alchemy and a little bit of chemistry, which chemistry comes from alchemy. And I'm not the biggest pro when it comes to those kind of things, but I was very interested in them, and I know a little bit about it, so. Science doesn't create, it describes what already exists. You know, that's a good way to put it. That's kind of what science's job is supposed to be. And I've even met a few really interesting scientists. And they say things like, scientists don't have any bias. And I said, no, everyone has a bias. Everyone has a bias. You have to admit to yourself what your bias is in order to not be affected so much by your bias. But if you think you don't have a bias, you're probably very wrong. Like, I can't 100% guarantee, because I don't know everybody, that would kind of be a bias. But there's almost no way, even if you were practicing to have less of an ego, to be in less of an egoic state and have less and less of an ego, you still have an ego. Even if you think that you totally got rid of your ego, the part of you that thinks that you don't have the ego anymore, that's your ego. Patting you on the back for getting rid of your old ego. So, people can think that. There's a process to having less of an ego, for sure. But yeah, science in general is supposed to be about admitting your biases, observing the world in a manner. The whole point of science is hypothesis, which is by definition a bias, as in they're trying to prove something they're believing exists. And that's a great point, because a lot of scientists will tell me that what they're trying to do is disprove. And that's a little bit more how I see things, but I don't really see other people doing what they say they're doing. And what I mean by that is they say they're trying to disprove, and I'm not talking about everybody, but a lot of people will say that they're trying to disprove hypothesis, but all they really do is confirmation bias, confirmation bias. Oh, this has been proven. Oh, that's been proven. It's like, no, they're theories. You've been drinking the scientific Kool-Aid for too long. Quit drinking that Kool-Aid. They're all theories. Same thing with the Big Bang Theory. I had a conversation with a very intelligent person the other day talking about the Big Bang Theory. They asked me what I thought about it. I mean, I can't really sum up the whole thing right here off the top of my head because I just kind of thought of it, but I was talking about how, well, people they theorize that the Big Bang was an infinitesimally small point. How do you even know? Like, how do you know that it wasn't something that existed and that it, like the universe blew up? Maybe it shrunk back down and then expanded again. Maybe it's just a point that's too small that you can't see it anymore. Like, what if everything started out as microcellular, and then it grew and expanded? The point is, to me, just because they can't see a cause before that cause doesn't mean that there's not prior causation that they don't know about. And that's actually a big aspect of Kabalah that is hidden even from most Kabbalists. The 3 initial causes. I could actually look those up in a minute, so that way I can, repeat them back specifically. But yes, in general, science is about hypothesizing. We formulate a theory, we test it, we see if it holds weight. And just because it does hold weight doesn't mean it's true. People will believe that things are true because maybe they tested it 100 times and it 99 out of 100, that's how it was. But that doesn't mean that's how it always will be, or how it always has been. It doesn't even necessarily mean that's the way it has to be right now. Backtracking about the universe, the speed of light is a constant. Oh, the speed of light is definitely not a constant. That is another thing that I will argue with people all day long. I realize that some scientists will argue, oh, it's close enough, so we just agree on this, that, or the other, and call it a constant. It's still not a constant. You're literally estimating and formulating a mean number, or an average, for a number that fluctuates, always, every time, experiment to experiment. The speed of light fluctuates. And those same people who will call the speed of light a constant will try to say that Albert Einstein was a relativist. And it's like, okay, if the speed of light is relative, then how is it a constant? They contradict themselves constantly, and they have no idea. I really wish, one of the sad things, I wasn't, super big into Albert Einstein, but it is very sad that a very intelligent person who spent most of their life trying to help uplift humanity, that they're remembered for things that they disproved themselves. While they were alive, Albert Einstein spent a good portion of his life trying to get the scientific community to listen to him, that he had already disproven his own theory of relativity, and that it was a theory he developed as a young man, and he'd already disproven it. But they loved it so much, it helped them push their agenda, they didn't want to listen to him. And I think that's a friggin' shame. That they still to this day will call, when they talk about everything's relative and morality is relative, they're relativists. And they'll blame it on Einstein. Oh, Einstein gave us this great theory. Don't blame Einstein for that. He was trying to prove that the ether existed. Something, if you study psychology, you could look into Carl Jung. Carl Jung talked about the ether. Some are legit, some aren't, but a little bit more New Age science or spirituality. You have the Akashix Records, which is, if you're really doing it right, it's just a connection to the ether. That time and space, it doesn't really exist. We perceive it this way. So we do perceive time and space because we have experiences. But outside of this domain that we exist in, time and space isn't needed. So time and space is something that happens here. Yeah, see, Tesla was also studying the ether, and that's probably why vortex math was censored and zero-point energy. Because it's manipulating magnetic fields with very low currents to produce more energy than it essentially took to, get it started. So, you could create like an ionization. I can't think exactly what it's called, but I know it had to do with like ionization, and let's say it was an antenna, because for lack of a better word, to harness electricity out of the thin air. And some people still think that that's impossible or kind of ridiculous, but if you study some of the technology on some airlines, there's actually static electricity strips. They're probably not called strips, but to me it's like you would embed it in the paint. You put these strips on the aircraft, and they're specific to a certain altitude where the airplane will actually harness static electricity as it's flying. And I did enough research and found that technically you could put these on an electric car. Now, of course, they would have to be for a different altitude, but you could harness static electricity while your car is in motion down the road to help charge your battery. And I'm not saying that it would fully charge your battery, especially with the public technology and whatnot that we have. But yes, that's yet another alternative that nobody's talking about, nobody's exploring, but obviously people know about it because airplanes use it. It's pretty common. I wouldn't be surprised if more aircraft, maybe even some boats, I don't know if any boats are using it. I think hydroplane, like those hydroplane boats, I think I've seen or read some of them use it. But I'm not going to say for sure. Yeah, it's, I could probably say a whole bunch of stuff about Tesla. Maybe not right now, though. I'm not an expert on Tesla, but he was a very fascinating person, especially if you're researching inventions and technology. I would be hard-pressed to believe that anybody researches technology very hardcore, like an inventor-type person, and hasn't heard of Tesla, at least. Oh yeah, there's plenty of world-changing tech being withheld from us. I've argued with a few people maybe a month or two ago about Li-Fi, or light fidelity, which is having the internet with light, and they're like, oh, you can't do that, and I'm like, dude, it's all already fiber optics underground. We're already technically using light to transmit data. It's not impossible. It's just, people don't want to, they want to act like, oh, there's no way to do it. It would cost too much money to develop. And it's like, we're already part way there. We've already been developing it. So it's a little ridiculous. I don't know about that. I mean, I'm not saying that's not interesting. I'm saying I don't know about that person, that family in Tesla. I say enough words. Like I said, this video is probably going to get censored if it even gets left up. But I'll have to look into that sometime when I'm like not irritable and I can read it and be interested, because I like to be genuinely interested in when I'm doing research. I don't like to force it down my own throat, because it's like, yeah, don't research stuff when you're frustrated. I mean, if you have to, you have to, but in general, when you want to learn, you need to be in a state to absorb it, to not just absorb it, but to take it in, to process it, and even utilize it. But yeah, just the light technology, just in itself, we could all literally have light speed internet. And there's that whole going back around to the speed of light. Well, if everyone had the speed of light internet connection, email, messaging their friends, their family, how do you think corporations would tax you for that? for light speed connection. And do you think people would find out pretty quick that the speed of light is not a constant? That's another thing. It's all circular. Their lies always depend on other lies, and that's how you can see their hypocrisy and their contradictions, because they lie all the time, and eventually, in order to bring something new out, to push a new agenda, they have to tell you some more truth. And it's not going to line up with all their other lies. And that's partially why people, the masses the world over, are so confused. Yep, and taxation was, at one point, there's many different religious texts, but in Abrahamic religions, that was the big sin, was usury. And they kind of changed the book to make it seem like it wasn't so bad. And it's ironic, because I'll even talk to people who are Christian. I grew up in a Christian family, so I've read the book many times in a serious sense, not just in a rebellious sense. But even, I'll mention it to people who are Christians, and I'll say, what did Jesus do before he was crucified? Go back and look at what his final actions were. And it's oh, well, they remember the story about Judas and the kiss on the cheek and all that kind of stuff, the betrayal. I gotta think about Judas and, what was his name? Thomas. Judas Didymous Thomas. But anyway, I won't go into Judas Didymous Thomas. But yeah, what Jesus did was he went to the money changer tables, and he literally flipped the tables, cursed at the people. He cursed at the church. He cursed at the money handlers who were taxing people for their absolution of their sins. And not only did he overturn a table, curse at them, but he flogged them. You look at all the stuff about Jesus, turning the other cheek, giving unto Caesar what is his. He's very, very pacifist in almost all the stories, but you go look at what he did before he got crucified. And he went, and he friggin' flogged the money changers. And he cursed at them. Alright? So, I don't understand why people think that that's a bad thing. They think oh, Jesus was supposed to be perfect, he never did a bad thing. Who's saying that that's bad, what he did? Sometimes anger is appropriate. If you're about to die and you've been keeping your mouth shut about what's been bugging you your whole life, maybe that's the time to be extra honest. I think some people don't quite see it that way, but that's one of the things that I saw was, not just the Sadducees and the Pharisees, which people don't understand those words. Here we are a few hundred or 1,000 years later or whatnot, depending on what history you look at, what year you think it is. But, crap, I just, friggin' years, 1600s. That's a tough question to answer. There's different perspectives that I have of it. If we look at it as a metaphor, people should be striving to be like their prophet, in the sense that, to do the right thing, to be an upstanding person who, you're not just looking out for yourself, but you're trying to think about what's best for the world. So as a metaphor, even, there's still, I don't want to say validity, that's not the right word. There's purpose, there's intention. It matters. Okay, so whether he was real or not doesn't fully matter. Now, if I believe, was Jesus a real person or entity, technically, if you look, there was a secret in the Bible about these 32 or 33 specific verses or passages about the Messiah within you, that the Bible specifically says in 33 places that Jesus, or the Messiah, is your conscience. something that exists within you that helps you know when you are doing the wrong thing. Which is why Jesus said all these things about you're worried about the speck in your brother's eye, but you can't cast out the beam in your own. And that's also another thing that I think people misunderstand about optics. It's another truth that's hidden from us, that the eye doesn't just take in light, but it also emits light. There's a reason we call them beams, your high beams. There's a reason for that. But that's esoteric, and who knows if science will ever give us the truth about it. Yeah, salvation, sure. I don't personally believe that, like, I don't have any issue, like, fundamental issues or whatnot with Christianity, but when people tell me that I'm gonna, oops, I'm sorry, buddy, I just was trying to put a pillow somewhere on my cat, and I kind of flung it in his face. Crap, what was I saying? Something about Jesus. I believe he's a great person. I believe he can be a great role model. At least, maybe not the whole Mandela effect crap, but that's totally another subject. But for the most part, a very, a person that, if you're going to look for someone to emulate, if you're going to look for a hero or someone to idolize, or, I can't think what the word is, because I never really had that. Like a hero, there's another word for it, I can't think what it is, a role model, yeah, never had one of those. But if you're going to have a role model, Jesus, for example, would probably be a great role model, but people just use his words to attack other people, and that's definitely not what they're for. I could, about the whole emitting, I guess I can kind of say, like, if you existed on the Earth without a sun, if there was no sun outside, theoretically you could see, but how could that be? How could you see it with total absence of light? Now, there's light from somewhere in the galaxy. Someone might argue it doesn't have to come from the sun, and there's creatures who live in the darkness, in caves, and they nocturnal and whatnot, and they don't necessarily even use their eyes. They develop other senses, like sonar, like bats. But let's say you are in a very dark room, not pitch black, but it's very dark, and there's like a little light somewhere, and you look in the mirror. That little light, it's in front of you, or to the side of you, it's going to reflect in your eye, and it's going to bounce out that mirror. Okay? So, as long as there's light present around your eyes, there's light reflecting inside, and then bouncing back out. And when you take a picture with a camera, most people's eyes will change color. As in, you get like a red eye, or you get halos, you get all these weird light blemishes. But as far as like getting really in depth as to like we can, maybe I'll make a thing about it, but that's one of those more like esoteric things, because people hear that and they're like, wow, that's absolutely crazy. Light does not go out of your eye, it only goes in. And then they say, oh, well, bouncing off of your eye, that's still different. I'm not even talking about just straight up bouncing off of it. I'm saying it goes in your eye before it bounces off. I'm not talking about the reflection of having a bright light and that reflection over your eyes. I'm talking about you're in a dark room, and you have a small little light. Like I said, it could be off to the side, it could be between you and the mirror. There's tons of little experiments you could do, such as like with fire, with black mirrors, like scrying mirrors, to see things. But that's also another thing, is the human eye perceives things a little bit differently than how my eyes might. And I'm not trying to say that I'm not like human, but I'm not fully human because of experimentation, human hybridization projects, and experimentation, and I see way better at night than the average person does. For me, most nights, even if there's barely any moon out at all, like I'm not talking about a full moon, if there's barely any moon out at all, it's like I'm standing in the shade. That's what being out at night looks like to me. I can look at the shadows, and I can still see the ground. I mean, it's not hyper detailed, but I see it in pigments of, it's not just pitch black. Like, I had never seen pitch black unless I'm literally in a room with fully sealed up, like a deprivation tank or something. No, not. No, it's not about challenging me or anything like that. I just mean, like, I'm talking about esoteric things, and I really want to, help people figure out the truth, but there's some concepts that are really, really abstract, or, I'm not saying that you aren't ready for it. That's kind of why I was like, it might be something more to talk about in private, but that in general, there's a lot of people that their minds just, they're triggered so easily. They're, oh, I believe, that's not what I heard, or that's not what I was taught, and that's all they hear. You're crazy. So it's fine. People can think I'm crazy. I probably am anyway, at least a little bit. Who isn't? Speaking of the moon, every time I look at it, it seems to be widely variant in size and location. So weird. Yeah, the moon is weird. I've seen some weird stuff with the moon before that I try to describe, and somebody was like, oh yeah, that was debunked. And I'm like, what do you mean debunked? I saw it with my own eyes. But yeah, that's another problem. There's many layers of the truth. The truth is like an onion. People think the truth is totally absolute, and the thing about the absolute truth is that it's, generally speaking, unknowable to us. Not for lack of trying. Now, obviously, most people do lack trying, but because the absolute truth would be infinite. It would exist beyond my understanding of it. So, it exists regardless of whether I know it or understand it or believe it, and our finite minds have a lot of trouble, especially with the society that, not just of today, but in general that we live in when we incarnate as human beings. We have all these preconceived notions and beliefs and all this stuff in the way. Is the moon even real? Naturally occurring satellite of Earth? Who knows? I mean, I look up all kinds of little theories about the moon, even if they sound outlandish, I'm just curious what they say, because I've never been there myself. Had I been there myself, maybe I could tell you an honest answer or what's up with that, but you could do some research and find that people are trying to push that hollow moon agenda, because astronauts and a lot of scientists say about the whole it being struck and ringing like a bell and vibrating and all that. And I'm not saying it's not true, but there's a lot of things that get said, and usually they're hidden, and then they get pulled out, and it's like, oh yeah, we knew that all along, and you guys never knew, and it's like, because you were hiding it. So, it's really hard to tell sometimes, like, when the scientific community comes out and tries to say things like that the moon is hollow, and that they've known since the 60s, or maybe even earlier, and that they have all this math, and I swear to God, the math almost changes every time I look at it. I'm like, didn't you say that the moon was X amount of miles away, and now you say it's this amount of miles away, and whatever. Yeah, it is really bizarre. The whole ring like a bell thing. This is really weird. I'm not really sure what to think about it myself. I guess one thing that I can say, like, because I know a lot of people speculate about space and whether any of it's real and shape of the Earth and what really planning and getting into all that. But something that I can say, because the public saw it. I remember one time before my brother died, I can't remember what launch it was. I don't think it was. It was probably one of the last shuttle launches. Like, they were talking about closing the program down. I think they kept it up for a while. I'm not sure what happened with it. I probably should, because it's, you know, my state. It's how they were getting a lot of money too. Hold on. I had a cough. Okay, so I was watching on television. Rocket was about to go up, or shuttle, whatever you want to call it. I think it was a shuttle. And I went outside and looked in the direction of the Cape, where it was supposed to launch from. And I'm standing out there, and I see something go up in the air, but it's not really in the right direction. Like, it... Basically, okay. I see a rocket go up, and it got... I mean, you know, I'm miles and miles away from there. So I can't, like, give you an estimate of how high up in the air it was, but on TV, it launched. I went outside, finally saw it in the sky. Neighbors went out, they were looking at it too. I had family who was looking at it too. And then it blew up. Boom! It exploded. Orange all in the friggin' sky. And it didn't look like when the propane factory blew up down the road. If that gives any hints as to where I live. But it was a similar color, and it was a nice big explosion, and we were all worried, oh my god, what the heck just happened? And we go inside, and then the TV's saying that the launch was delayed, and that it hasn't launched yet. And I'm like, what? I literally watched it launch on television. Went outside, found it in the sky, watched it blow up, and then went back inside, and then they said, oh no, that was something else. Like, they didn't say what they launched, what blew up. They were just like, oh no, we had a false start, we didn't get start yet, we're gonna go ahead and start right now. Okay, 3, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And then it launched up. So I go back outside again, and I'm like, what? And I'm looking in the sky, and then I see, from a different direction, which was not the Cape, another launch. And we're looking at it, we're like, what? Is this some, like, missile or a secret satellite launching? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, is like, even if you can literally go watch the space shuttle launch, you'll see some stuff that, if you're paying attention, we don't know what the truth is. You know, they tell us a shuttle launch, they literally show it on TV. Then you go back in a little bit later, and they're like, oh no, it didn't launch. It's like, you can't rewind a shuttle. You can't put the fuel back in those boosters. And if one of your boosters flew off or whatever, you can't just magically stick one on there in 10 minutes. If someone can prove me wrong that they can put a new booster on a rocket in 10 minutes, do it. But I'm pretty sure that is hours and hours and hours. That is not a 10-minute ordeal. But yeah, I can say that much about the whole space program. And, you know, being a citizen of the state where they launch a lot of those things. For us, we're just like, well, who knows what that was? Who knows what the first thing was? And then also, it's kind of like, well, you know, for me anyway, I'm thinking like, I wonder if any shuttle went off at all. You know, if one of them was a secret, you know, who knows if either of them was real. Yeah, it's definitely sketchy. And it was one of the things I was very interested in as a kid. You know, space and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, especially because it's like in my backyard, practically. Yeah. I was thinking about how, even though I've been to the Space Center a few times, almost all my memories are, like, gone from there. Like, not that I did anything secret or top secret. I was mostly a kid, but it is really weird how every time that I can remember going there as a kid, all I can really remember is the gift shop. That is a little weird, but we'll get past my weird memory. Because who knows? Who knows? I'm not saying anything crazy happened there. Like, I don't remember. I just remember going a few times and not remembering actually doing anything you would do. Yeah, that would be cool. I was actually gonna see if you wanted to come on and you know, ask some questions or dialogue with me that way. Because I know you have a lot of great questions, Banjojo, and sometimes you're like, oh, you should do this on a live stream, and we've been busy and whatnot, hadn't really been able to connect. And technically, we're at about an hour now. I was only thinking about going 30 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe I go a little bit longer. But yeah, I hope you have a great sleep. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit more about black magic, and probably call it a night myself. So yeah, look forward to chatting with you sometime soon. Take care. I mean, technically, yeah, you know, we'll talk about it. Hugs right back. And technically, we talked about black magic and science with all this stuff too. We talked about the moon, talked about shuttle launches, and space, and all that stuff. It wasn't really what I was going to get into, but it does relate, and I appreciate it. Thanks for the great questions, and I hope you have a great night, bud. So, I wonder if I should save some of these things for another video. I mean, I already kind of said what I felt like about black magic and white magic. I didn't really dispute too much that black magic is not evil. It's just censorship. But I did talk about that the first like 5 or 10 minutes. I just don't know if I really hit that hard enough. That is the main thing. If I was going to make this just a 30-second video, that's what I'd say. You know, black magic is not evil. It's banned science. It's censored study of the unknown, of the unseeable forces, like gravity or Wi-Fi. One of these days, I'd like to talk to y'all about some Henrik Cornelius Agrippa. That's my dude right there. If you ever feel like reading his books, I recommend the first 3. The 4th one, I have not read, I'll admit to that. I hadn't read it. I mean, I did kind of flip through it, but I don't own it, so I didn't read it cover to cover. Probably not by him. It's definitely in a different writing style. There's definitely a lot of differences to it. But I have heard some really insightful things from people who read it, and they were explaining to me what they got from it. And in occultism, just because somebody says, that's a fraud or a fake or forgery or whatever, you know, just because people say stuff like that, they tell you, don't look over there. That's when you should probably look. Okay? If people tell you don't look over there because it's already been proven fake, it's already been proven false, you should probably go look it up. One of the things that I would implore a real scientific mind, you know, who wants to dispute about occult history. That was another thing. I really want to talk about occult history. Should look up Count de Saint Germain. I think some people call him Count Saint Germain, but it's I don't know. I'd kind of say it weird maybe. But Saint Germain is also a mythical figure, but it's also a supposed real person. And I say supposed, and I say it's real, because there were kings and queens who verified that this man, named Saint Germain, lived over 200 years. Historically verified, this man lived over 200 years. And he looked young. He looked the same age. Through 3 generations of kings and queens. Interesting. The kings and queens would vouch that a human being has lived over 200 years, but yet most people have never heard of Saint Germain. And maybe if they have, they might think of, I believe there's a religion that I don't know too much about, but I don't want to call it the mythical one, but I think it's more the abstract Saint Germain that they're focused on, but I'm not going to say that for sure, because that's definitely not one of the things that I've done too much research into recently. Okay, and literally I didn't have hardly anything for the notes. I already read pretty much all of it. So I do want to share a little bit about the 7 Hermetic principles. And I'll make more videos specifically about these. But these answer almost every question that someone could have. And not because they are the answer, because they can help you use a scientific method, use a method to find the answer. So these aren't supposed to be the answer. They are great answers, but they're a way to find answers to your own questions. Questions somebody else has never had. Questions you've never heard somebody ask. You can't find somebody asked. You know, it's not on Yahoo Questions. Alright. So the first principle is mentalism. The second is correspondence. The third is vibration. The fourth is polarity. The fifth is rhythm. The sixth is cause and effect. And the seventh principle is that of gender. And there's also, some people will say that there's an eighth, because these 7 principles encompass each other and they make up a, what do you call it? Can't believe I forgot that. But yeah, it's a septagon or whatever, you know, like a stop sign looking thing. Which is, in a sense, you know, you have little nodes on it, 7 nodes, 1 in the middle, 6 on the sides, and then there's an encompassing around the edge of the circle. So that's the 8th. The 8th is that you have to care. That's what some people will coin it as. I can't remember the name of the sect of Hermeticists. That want to put that in the book themselves. For me, I don't really see it has to be there, because if you study these principles, it's implied and inferred. But I'm just throwing that out there, just so that way you know, you can't just make things happen when you don't care. You can't help people if they don't want help. You can't help yourself if you don't want to be helped. That kind of thing. You know, there has to be opportunity. Alright, so I'll go ahead and give a brief description for some of these, and I want to talk about them a little bit. Okay, so the all is mind, the universe is mental. That's the axiom, the primary axiom for mentalism, the first principle. The all is mind, the universe is mental. It's really hard not to just read it right off the thing, because if you read the book, it's really a good way to read it. It's said in a very specific way, and the only thing pretty much better than reading it out of the book for yourself is having somebody who understands and knows what it means to read it to you, and you can actually go online and find this being read to you. So I'm not gonna try to read the whole thing. Sorry, I would, but I ain't that great of a reader, especially not live. Alright, so but I do want to give you a good understanding of these really quick. Okay, so this principle embodies the truth that the all is mine. It explains that the all, in all caps, the all, which is the substantial reality underlying all the outward manifestations and appearances that we know under the terms of, quote-unquote, the material universe, or the phenomena of life, matter, energy. Okay, so what we're calling the all is mine is matter and energy, and we're going to get to vibration, okay? In fact, I'm going to go ahead and skip the principle of correspondence just real quick. It's important, but we'll skip it real quick. Okay, the principle of vibration, which is the third one, embodies the truth that everything is in motion. Everything vibrates. Nothing is at rest. And these are facts which modern science endorses. And each new scientific discovery tends to verify. Think about it. Vibration. Energy, an exchange of energy. You know, when things die, we can say that it's gone, it has no life force. But for instance, even if we look at the material body, which I'm not talking about soul at the moment, but the material body goes back into the earth, replenish the soil, feed the bugs, feed the crops. Not human crops, please keep that out of my food, thank you. You'll hear about that soon. They're trying it. They are. Human compost. Feeding to the crops. Feeding to their livestock. Anyway. Ugh. Yuck. Ugh. People are so gross. I don't want to eat them. Ugh. Okay, so, and the principle of correspondence. Some people know this as above, so below. As below, so above. There's a correspondence between the layers of phenomena, between the various planes of existence, or being, and life. Most of the paradoxes and hidden secrets of nature can be discovered from imploring this, from utilizing correspondence and looking at how things correspond in different realms or different planes of phenomena. Or the different laws, the different correspondences between the laws. You're not supposed to just take one of these and use it to find your answer. Although you could. In general, what you're supposed to do is, if you've ever read that book, The Secret, or heard about it, seen the video, whatever, they pretty much plagiarized this, alright? Now, they didn't, like, take it word for word and slap their name on it and that kind of plagiarization. No, they pretty much took, like, cherry-picked Salivar fallacy, like, took some of the stuff from this, threw the rest of it out, and said, that's all you need to know, the secret. Okay, so this is the secret behind the secret. So if you think people really don't want you to know about something, this is one of those things. I can guarantee you that. Guarantee it. That this is one of those things. The principle of polarity. This is a big one. I could talk about this one for hours. Okay, everything is dual, everything has poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half-truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. The Kybalion. That's the main axiom for polarity. And instead of reading to you the example here, because I can give you great examples. You know, like I said, I could talk about this for hours. Probably trip up my words a bit, but I could talk about it for a long time. But what I want to say, since I have the moment, is one of the ways that we see polarity manifest every day is by people getting angry about things. You know, think about the whole upvote, downvote system. And polarity is one of the easiest ways to manipulate reality. Because once you can, I haven't gotten a rhythm or cause and effect yet, but if you can be polarized to believe something is evil or to believe something is good, then you've been polarized. What I would recommend is to depolarize yourself. To not that you can't have bias, not that you can't feel good, feel happy, and then, there's other poles, there's sadness, and there's all this spectrum of emotion. I'm not trying to, like, lump up fear and joy and say that they're opposites and the same, but, yeah, in a way. But this is one of the primary tactics for manipulation, is to polarize somebody, to make you absolutely hate something or absolutely love something. If you hate something, like, let's say someone posted a YouTube video and you're like, man, I freaking hate this, and you go tell everyone how much you hate it, there's going to be one of your friends, I don't know if it's just one, but there's probably one of them out there, who's going to like it just because you hate it. Okay? That's polarity seeping in, spreading out. I'll talk more about polarity another time. That was pretty esoteric, without me even really describing exactly, like, the root definition of what polarity is. But so we have rhythm. Okay, the fifth principle is rhythm. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. Okay, it's another axiom from the Kybalion about rhythm. When you breathe in and you breathe out. There's a rise and a fall. And the pendulum swing manifests in it does manifest in everything, but it's very apparent in almost everything. But there's plenty of things where it might seem a little obscure. But there's a time and a place for everything. That also has to do with the principle of rhythm. If you know that sometimes things are inappropriate, sometimes they're not, time and a place, there's rhythm, okay? That's just one use of it. Okay, if you're a musician, I would definitely recommend you study this because, whoa, okay. So, we'll hop to the sixth principle, cause and effect. This is a big one that people don't seem to understand. Sometimes they'll put these other things next to it and think it's the same or think they're additions to it. I'm not really going to get into whether they are or aren't right now because I'm kind of wrapping this up a little bit. But I do want to talk about it. So every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law, and chance is a better name, not recognized. Chance. Blah. I gotta cough real quick. Hold on. Yeah, I have vocal trauma in my life, so I can't speak for extended periods for very long. So, excuse me. Chance is a better name for law not recognized, and there are many planes of causation, and nothing escapes the law. So, if you're seeking to produce an effect, if we're talking about even magic, you're coming up with a magical formula, you can't just have the effect without any cause. I'm not saying that you have to physically intervene, although those are usually better when you're actually, taking action in your life to produce your result. But you have to do something, even if it's just mentally. And that goes back to the first principle, okay, of mentalism. That before things can come into existence, you gotta think about it. Even if you act and you say you're acting without thinking, you still made the choice to, quote-unquote, not think. Which doesn't mean that you didn't think about it. You just decided not to think about it. So you only thought about it for maybe a second, and then you were like, nah, I'm done. It doesn't mean there was no thought behind it. You thought about it. You just decided you weren't going to think about it. Not that people don't sometimes make actions and not know about the consequences that may occur. But, in general, in order to produce an effect, you've got to cause it. And if you do something, it's going to have an effect. And there's some Einstein, some Newtonian stuff in there. Equal and opposite reaction, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, this is older than that, okay? So, people who are all into Newtonianism, that's great. I bet you love the principle of cause and effect. Check it out, study it up. And then the last principle, or the seventh, is the principle of gender, which is maybe one of the most misunderstood concepts in our modern day, and maybe something very taboo to talk about, I guess. Gender is in everything. Everything has masculine and feminine principles. Say that one more time. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Everything. Okay? Gender manifests on all planes. Don't prove me wrong. Okay? You show me where gender don't manifest on all planes. Now I'll go ahead and read a little bit of this, okay? So, the masculine and the feminine principles are always at work. It's not only about the physical plane, but the mental and even on the spiritual planes, okay? And what we're talking about is not necessarily the manifestation of sex, okay? I mean, it can be, obviously, you know, gender does play a role in sex and physicality, but that's not essentially what we're talking about, okay? We're not talking about the base and the baser things in life. Not today. So, if you look at your mind, here, instead of like reading off this, I'm going to go ahead and tell you something that's not in here, alright? It's from my study of Buddhism. When you close your eyes, you go inside your mind, and you have, let's say you have blankness, okay? You have dark, some people might even call it black, but you have like a darkness when you close your eyes. And then when you imagine something, whether you're a good visualizer or not, because some of us can visualize things whether we're trying to or not, but regardless of whether it's clear or fuzzy, when you visualize something, you see these little lights, okay? These lights, they take shape, they take color, but it's these two forces within your mind that help you create what we call a thought. We have to have that emptiness, that projector, that room, and then we use that light. And these are the principles of masculine and feminine within the mind. This is one way of looking at it. There's more, but this is one really esoteric way. If you're studying Buddhism, and you know this, and you're looking at all those lights that they talk about, in the darkness, and how the lights change, you'll see what they have stated happens in death, you can also observe while you're still alive. So if you read like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, or the Book of Living and the Dying, even the Egyptian Books of the Dead, but I'm talking about Buddhism specifically in that case, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It'll totally light up all kinds of worlds for you. So, these principles do not belong to or in any religion. But you'll find that the world over has borrowed from a lot of this. All the religions all over the world. There's a few that, you know, maybe they're not even, they don't have much in them. Some religions are just totally made up. Spaghetti monster. You know, which, hey, you know, whatever. But, straight up, the world's religions all over, they will have influence from this. This can connect, and this can open up those esoteric meanings within a lot of those other traditions. I'm gonna go do a quick search real quick. See, if I thought about it beforehand, I would have went ahead and popped it up beforehand. But, because I'm not even sure if, like, a Google search will even tell me what these are. It's like, generally speaking, you gotta, like, go find, like, a Kabalah table, and most of the time it's in Hebrew, unless you can read Hebrew. Okay. So, the three veils of quote-unquote negative existence. That's what this article's called. Just gonna, go ahead, throw it out there. This is where I'm finding it at the moment. Of course, I've read this before. But I want to talk about the three initial causes at the top of the Kabbalistic tree of life that most people don't even know they're there. They look at the 10 Sephiroth and they study their Sephiroth and their path working, and that's all fine. Do what you do. But I want to talk about the Ein Soph, and the Ein Soph hour. Okay. So the Ein is the highest and first of the veils. It literally translates as nothing, or simply no. It is absolute emptiness, the opposite of existence, or complete absence. So I guess if we were talking about the Big Bang, this is what happened before that. Not saying that that this is right before the Big Bang, but for people who are looking there and that's their beginning, this was before it, okay? The Ein Soph is the middle of the three veils, and it proceeds from Ein by necessity. It literally translated as no limit. If there is nothing, then there are no boundaries or limitations. This is the limitless foundation, the eternal in its purest sense. And again, like I said, this comes from Kabalah, Judaism. But this is a good way to study, at least if you're introducing yourself to it, the three initial causes. Because causation is important. I mean, think about how many scientists theorized that the Big Bang Theory was the first thing. Here I'm telling you, it's already been proven thousands of years ago. The first thing was nothingness, and then came infinity, no limit, okay? Or opportunity, boundaryless, limitationless. The Ein Soph hour is the lower veil, situated closest to the tree of life, and it proceeds from the Ein Soph as a necessity. It means limitless or eternal light, without any limitations. All things happen by virtue of the fact there is no reason why they shouldn't. Okay? And light plays a very role in the philosophy and symbolism of Kabalah, and the Ein Soph hour is that light. Light means many things to a Kabbalist. The light of wisdom, light of life, light of grace, and so on. But in attaching all these associations, it is important to remember that these refer to our human experience of light, and the way an inner communion with the eternal light can heal and transform you. See, now it's talking about path working, because I'm reading this. But not the simple nature of light in and of itself. So what is the nature of this mysterious light? In metaphysics, such questions can be overanalyzed. The light of Kabalah is the same as the light described in science. Boom. And experienced in our everyday life. It is just that it is experienced in a more direct, or Gnostic, manner. That's kind of funny. Or to be, Kabbalist Gnostics. Or to be more precise, in the manner that it experiences itself. Oh, now it's talking about Einstein's theory of relativity. Okay. We'll go ahead and read it anyway, but I've already disproven that earlier. That Einstein disproved it himself. I can make a whole video about it if y'all really want, but it's already out there. Someone else did it. How Einstein did it himself. So if you want to go look that up, go look it up. Einstein disproved his own theory. But we'll go ahead and read it as if, we're theoretical. As Einstein's theory of relativity explains, if you were to travel at the speed of light, then strange things would happen to space and to time, and you would experience yourself to be in all places and times at once. You would, in other words, be eternal. This is the experience of light from its own perspective. When the world was created and the first light came into being, the entirety of space and time were created and held in a single moment. The Big Bang. Moment is an inappropriate word, but there is no other. Within the nature of light itself, this eternal moment was the Ein Soph hour. So the Ein Soph hour is essentially the opportunity for time and space to exist. You could say that it's almost the cosmos. It's another way of describing the cosmos before we got here, or before it came into being, because it is beyond what we see it to be. Like, whether I agree with relativity or relativism or not, yes, if you got out of this time, out of this space where we exist in, whether it's death, if you're not in this universe, you are in, I wouldn't call it the real world, because it's not necessarily a world, we don't really have words for it, but you would be in the real. Whereas what we exist in is a finite little point that loops around, keeps on going. It looks big and forever for us, but it's just like a split second in the absolute truth's perspective. But I did want to describe the Ain and the Ain Soph hour, because in the future, whenever I get into talking about causation, I'll go ahead and link people to this video so they can check it out for themselves if they'd like to, or I'll just link them to the page. They can go read it if that's what they prefer, because it is important, even if you're not a Kabbalist, which is totally fine. You know, many magic users aren't. I don't call myself a Kabbalist, but I did study the Kabalah for a good number of years. Not really that passionate about it. I won't get into it right now. I don't necessarily recommend pathworking for people who don't know what pathworking is going to do for their lives. But then again, I don't recommend people just go read a magic spell off the internet and do it. You know, most of them say, oh, it's got this warning and that warning. Write your own spell. If you don't know how, that's very understandable. A lot of people don't. You can do some research, or because it is discoverable. Or I mean, you could ask me some questions. I'll do my best to answer in my spare time. You can ask me in private, or hop on one of these live streams. I'll maybe start doing them regularly. It just kind of depends. We'll kind of like pick a more specific topic after we cover the broad stuff, and maybe if it gets a little bit of momentum, we'll keep going. Alright, and I don't have any services listed at the moment. I did a couple years ago, and then I decided I wasn't going to do it for a while, but I am offering services once again for helping people with their magic. So whether it's if you're looking for a mentorship, you can apply for sure. I'm not super seeking a student right now, but I really do want to help people. So if you need any help, just ask, and know that, you know, I'm doing the best that I can with the free time that I have. I can spend a few hours researching to help give you an answer. I can spend weeks and months researching and, you know, guiding you, discussing it with you, because I don't want to just tell you what to do. That's not what I'm going to do. You know, please don't expect me to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life or anything like that. But if you would like to discuss things, bounce ideas off of, you want some guidance, you can hit me up. And like I said, if it's a big job, you know, you really need specific help, and consider, you know, donating. Or, like I said, I'm not offering services for pay at the moment, but yeah, give it a consideration. If you want a quick answer, I'll give you a quick answer. If you want me to do a little research, I can do a little bit. I won't really mind. But I can't do like a month or months and months and months kind of thing for free. I'd love to. I'm not saying I won't. I'm not saying I won't research it, but it literally will take me a lot of time. And if I'm doing it for free, it's going to happen on my time. That's all. Nothing wrong with that. But want to be forthcoming about it, and as far as like how my experience goes with that, Every couple years, I just hop on somewhere on the internet, make an anonymous account, somewhere people don't know ahead of time where it'll be, and I'll offer similar services. I'll offer to answer questions about occultism, not cults, but occultism. What's the other word? Paranormal stuff, demons, ghosts. And I don't know everything about everything, but I've been studying for more than half my life. Okay, I'm about 30 now. It's been about 20 years. I've been studying this stuff since I was a kid. So, be more than happy to help. Feel free to ask any questions. And maybe tune in next time. You can ask me right on the air. Or we might even have a Discord discussion at some point. It picks up traction, like I said. But I think I'm going to call it a night. Talk about most of the stuff I was going to talk about. I kept myself from getting all mad about censorship. Still kind of like thinking about some more of those things, whether I'm going to say them or not. I did really good. I talked about other things instead of those, but might as well. One of the things that was kind of like bugging me was friggin', not bugging me, but it's just like, man, what? You kidding me? Friggin' an artist named Ziani. I've recently found them, but they got some really interesting stuff, and some of their newer stuff is definitely very, like, witchcraft-oriented, and it's really tight. I would highly recommend checking it out. I was actually going to do a remix of it, but yeah, one of their things got censored, really heavily censored, and it was they already put it up, censored, and it got so censored that it's literally, like, blockier than Minecraft. Like, I'm not even joking. And I'm not saying that there's not some reason to censor it, but it was already censored. There was nothing. It was fine. It should have been fine. That's kind of bull for what happened. I guess that's all I'll say about that. Wasn't happy about it. Friggin' stupid. All the things to censor. Ugh. Just won't even get into it. Alright. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope y'all have a great day, great night. Whatever time it is for whenever you're watching this. It's night for me. So I'm going to go to sleep. Wind down a little bit. And maybe I'll see y'all next week. Have a great one. Peace.